So earlier this month, the fantasy subreddit released the results for the top fantasy novels. And this list came together with almost 1,000 individuals voting for their favorite fantasy novels. And by the end of it, it received nearly 10,000 votes. I'm not going to be reacting to this list. The heavy hitters in fantasy rounded out the top 10, which I don't think anybody is going to be surprised about. But it did get me thinking, what are some fantasy books and even some sci-fi books that either made this list or, some that didn't make the list that I just have no interest in reading. So I want to take you through that list, and this is going to be a part 2 because I did film a video like this about a couple of years ago. And I'm gonna go with books that I'll probably never read because I don't like to say never. Things could change, feelings, opinions could change, but as of right now and even in the near future, I have no interest in reading these 7 books that I have on this list. Yeah, did I even say hi to you guys? Hi, welcome back everyone. Hi, if you're new, I'm Tori, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let's get into it. So the first book, or first series that I have no plans to read is the Banned series by Nicholas Eames. And the first book is very popular, especially right now. It's The Kings of the Wild. I remember when this book came out, and even back then, I just had no desire to pick this up. But the more that I keep hearing about it and the more that I keep seeing people hype this book up and praise it and love it, I'm just like, it always sounds less appealing than it already did. So this is number 1 on the list for me. If you guys have never heard of this book before, we have these band members who back in the day, they were these great mercenaries, and basically the glory days are behind them. Now they're a lot older. Life has really caught up with them, but now the band is going to get back together when one of the ex-band members comes back and needs help because his daughter is being held somewhere. So that's really all I know about this. I've also heard it's pretty humorous, which already that doesn't appeal to me. So I am just going to chalk this up to one that will probably never get read. Next is a pretty big series, and that is Discworld by Terry Pratchett. I think this is a combination of a lot of different things why I have no interest in it. First of all, it's been running forever at this point, and I just have no desire to start something that began so long ago. This is another one though where I feel like the more I hear about it, the less interested I feel in actually reading it. The whole premise of the series starts with this giant turtle who's carrying the world on his back. And just from the things that I've heard about Discworld over the years, it sounds like we get a really memorable, really lovable cast of characters throughout this series, especially the way that it's expanded over the years. But yeah, again, just no interest there. So I'm gonna have to pass. The next series that I have no interest in reading is the Cradle series by Will White. This is one that has really been blowing up over the years. It's been out for a while, but I feel like over the last couple of years, I've been seeing a steady rise in love for this series. And I think that's pretty evident too in the fact that it made number 17 on this fantasy Reddit list. This is another one though that I hear people talk about, and as they're describing it and saying how much they loved it, there's nothing calling me, nothing pulling me to this series. And then I found out that it's at least 12 books in this series. The premise has been described as these sacred artists use their powers to control forces of the natural world. And the main character in this, Lyndon, he is what's known as an unsouled, and he is not able to learn kind of the sacred arts of his clan. I feel like I don't have anything more to add to that, but yeah, just every time I see this series, every time I see Unsouled talked about, it just goes right over me. I'm just like, no, thank you. So the next 2 books I want to talk about, I don't think either of them made the top fantasy list. One is actually a sci-fi, but they're both books that I've kind of been going back and forth on for a while now. But these kind of fall into the category of books that I probably should have read when they came out, because now, interest has slowly faded over time, and I just don't see myself going back to these. So the first one that I want to talk about is She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan. This is one I feel like I just should have read right when it released, because even after like 4 or 5 months, I was like, the interest is gone. And now when I do actually hear people talk about this book and talk about the specific things that they loved in the book, the less appealing the entire reading experience sounds to me. This book has been marketed as Mulan meets The Song of Achilles, and I was kind of lukewarm on The Song of Achilles. I enjoyed it overall, but I'm definitely not one of those people that's like, oh my God, read The Song of Achilles, this is incredible. I do love Mulan though, but putting that aside, I think just too much time has passed for this series. And yeah, I don't have a desire to you know, pick it up at this point. And then the next book I'm putting into this category is This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El-Mohtar and Max Gladstone. This is the sci-fi novel on this list, and this is another one that I just should have read when it came out because I don't care anymore. I think this came out back in 2019, and now just the interest, the excitement for this story is no longer there for me. But also with this one, I feel like this is one, you know, had I read it back in 2019, I don't think it would have aged well with me. I feel like this could be on a list today of like, you know, books I feel differently about in 2023 or something like that. And, you know, actually that's not a bad idea for a video, but yeah, just I get that vibe from this book that I probably would have enjoyed it when I read it, but as time passed, probably would not have had the staying power that I would be hoping for. So this is going on the list too of books I'll probably never read now. And then the next series making this list is Sandman by Neil Gaiman. This is one, I think this is the one that's going to be a big maybe because I love Neil Gaiman. At this point, I have read several of his books over the years. I've read Coraline, I've read Stardust, Neverwhere, American Gods. I've loved everything I've read from him except for The Ocean at the End of the Lane. I did not like that. But I mean, Neil Gaiman and I, we have a good track record. I love his stories. I even love the film adaptations of Stardust and Coraline. So Neil Gaiman is an author who I really get on with his work, but there's something about Sandman that when I read the descriptions, when I see it in bookstores, it doesn't pull me in. So again, this one is going to be a big maybe. This is a graphic novel series, and that's not the issue because I do love graphic novels, but there's something about this one in particular and this story in particular that at this point, I couldn't care less about. So I'm going to throw Sandman on the list, but we'll see how or if that opinion changes as time goes on. But as of right now and in the near future, I probably won't be picking this one up. And then last but not least, at this point, it's gonna be anything by T. Kingfisher. You know when you read a book and you disliked it so much that it kind of turns you off from wanting to pick up other books by that author. That is how I feel about T. Kingfisher as of right now, which is again unfortunate because I actually did want to read more of her work. I was really interested in The Hollow Places, but I think Nettle and Bone is gonna have to, you know, I'm gonna have to put a few years between us before I can go on to more of T. Kingfisher's work. And normally that doesn't really happen because even if I don't like a book by an author, I'm still open. Like I'm still excited to give their other books a try. I think Grady Hendrix is a great example of this. I did not like Horror Store, but I'm really excited to read the new book that just came out and then also to read My Best Friend's Exorcism. The same thing happened with Shauna Maguire. I really did not like Every Heart a Doorway, but had I not given her another chance, I wouldn't have read Middle Game, which is one of my favorite fantasy books. And then also, even though she doesn't write under Shauna Maguire for this, I loved Feed, which is part of the Newsflesh trilogy. And I think at this point, we all know how I feel about Andy Weir, but I gave Project Hail Mary a try and I enjoyed it overall. So I'm always excited to pick up more books by an author, even if I didn't get on with like at least one of their books. But there's something about Nettle and Bone and T. Kingfisher in particular that now I'm just, I don't know, there's like a sour little taste in my mouth and I'm like, oh, maybe a few years down the line, I can go back and try to pick up something else. But as of right now, probably not. So that is it for me, you guys. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. Let me know some of the books or series that you don't plan on reading. Also, let me know what you think of the fantasy list that came out. I'm gonna link that down below for you to go check out. But other than that, I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.